So, Vince, let's dive into the offense. You ready to
Please.
talk some offensive football?
I am. I am. What are your overall impressions of the offense after watching the film? I'll throw it to you first.
I loved what I saw in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I broke the game down a little bit more, I was even more impressed with what we saw in the first half because as I watched the game and talked to a couple people about it, you come to realize USC threw a completely different defense at Notre Dame last night. Completely different defense. They were in a 3-3-5 the whole night. There were times where they were in a 3-5-3 alignment last night, basically saying we're going to take your quick game away, we're going to take away your perimeter throws, and they still couldn't. And I to be able to come out against, so for example, USC usually plays a lot more man. Vince, if you went back and watched the game, they were playing a ton of zone last night. A ton
Mm-hmm.
of, I mean, they were running cloud coverage. They were
Which I
running
didn't
cover two.
understand,
I
to be
didn't,
honest with
but
you.
things we didn't see a lot of that from them in the
Yeah.
past. I haven't
Right.
seen a lot of that from them in the past. And to me, I thought Notre Dame's ability to Jack Cohn, especially his ability to recognize that and get the ball out was really good. And I thought Tommy Rees's answers for those things were really good as well. It was a really well designed game, but I was even more impressed with it. And we talked a lot about my thoughts on the game plan last night, but I was even more impressed by it when I realized that USC threw a completely different defense. They used the bye week, and this is one of those things that you're going to find sometimes. I don't think that it was necessary. Like, here's the difference between Notre Dame and USC. Notre Dame used the bye week to look back at their first 6 games and say, here's what we've done that we're really good at, and here's what we do that we're not as good at. Let's do more of what we're good at. So we
Right.
talked about tempo, RPOs. I think let me pull up my numbers here because we'll dive into these specifically, but I had the Notre Dame quarterbacks were, see, 6 of 7 on RPO throws. No, I'm sorry, 7 of 8 on RPO throws for 66 yards, which you have to look at. And when you refer to the run game, because it's an extension of the run game, which puts the run design into more context. But 7 of 8 for 66 yards.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at, we loved that. Loved the fact that they spread the field, which opened up the running game. I mean, there were so many times where Kyron Williams was able to find a hole after they washed some guys down because USC was spreading out. I mean, there was a time where they ran a bubble off of an RPO, and Cone handed the ball off, and Kyron was able to cut back towards the bubble, but the flat defender had worked out with the bubble, and so then he had to come late to Kyron. Ends up being like a 6 or 7 yard gain.
Right.
2 weeks ago, that guy's sitting right there because they're trying to block him. He squeezes down and tackles Kyron after a yard or two. Or he may blitz if they're in 19 personnel or whatever they like to do with all the tight ends on the field. So to me, it was obviously a joke with the 19 personnel. They can't run 19. Well, they could.
I
No,
mean,
Notre Dame, they may try
I
that
was gonna
someday.
say it might.
But that those are things you look at and say, boy, that really had an impact on the game, and it really had an impact on the success of the game. But it meant even more to me when I look at it and say, boy, they were not running what Notre Dame thought they were going to run. They were not running what they had shown on film in the
Agreed.
past. And they were kind of a hybrid 4 down. And part of it was they didn't have Drake Jackson, right? I don't even know if he played last night. I don't remember seeing him last night. Did you?
I did not.
I don't remember seeing Drake Jackson last night. So when I look at it, say, boy, they threw something different at you, and it didn't get you off your game. And that to me was a really impressive aspect of last night's performance, to see them go out and play the way they did. Yeah, and I'm looking at the game sheet now. I do not see Drake Jackson's name. He was listed as a starter. But I don't see anything from him in regards to any kind of production. So I really don't know if he played last night very much at all. I'm trying to see if he had any stats. I guess he played a lot more than I thought, Vince. He had 6 tackles,
Oh, okay.
which says a lot about in a sack, which says a lot about, I think, the play of the offensive line, because I don't remember seeing Drake Jackson at all.
Crazy.
And so to me, that even adds even more to what I'm saying, because that means they were using him as a 3-down lineman instead of just replacing him with somebody else. So I was impressed by that. I really was.
So you want to talk about all offensive line
yeah, let's dive into it, because it kind of leads right into that
Yeah.
comment about Drake Jackson. I as I broke the game down, we talk about things that you see better that are differently. Two big things I saw from the offensive line last night. Number one, I think Josh Lugg played better than I thought he played live.
Okay.
I thought he got beat a couple times, but like even on the sack, he did what I think he didn't do a great job of it, but he rode the guy outside. And then that guy came off late to get the sack because the right guard didn't do anything to help the center, and they gave up that inside pocket. I think sometimes it looked like Josh Lugg got beat. It was actually the guard and Lugg trying to help the guard. But I thought Josh also had one of the more impressive blocks. There was the run that Kyron Williams took. He cut back behind Josh for like a 12-yard gain. It's like Kyron took the handoff and just went straight for like 12 yards to get a first down. It got him like first goal, like the 2 or the 3. If you watch that play, it was because Josh took the end and drove him like 5 feet inside and then just planted him. And so it looked like they slanted away from it, and Kyron just took the handoff in the inside zone, and literally it was technically a cutback, but he just went straight.
Right.
And it was because Josh just blew his guy up. So I thought Josh played a lot better than I thought. I thought Jarrett Patterson played better than I thought. I thought he had a good game. I thought he was a little bit up and down. But as I watched the game again, I thought I saw more and more positive snaps from him. I thought him and Andrew Kristofic really had some nice combo blocks in this game. I thought Andrew Kristofic was pretty darn good in this game. Joe Alt was solid.
Yeah.
He wasn't getting the
movement. He was
movement.
a true freshman still. I mean,
yeah, he's not. See, the problem with Joe is he's getting like almost no movement in the run game. But he's a freshman who played tight end in high school last year.
Exactly. I'm not expecting him to have the strength that he needs yet.
He's not 335 like Blake Fisher. He can't just.
He will be. I think he will be. And maybe not 335, but I think
he'll be like a 310, 315.
Right.
But he's not going to add a ton of weight. He's just going to get stronger.
He's going to get stronger.
And all that, Vince.
Yeah, exactly.
But the compete level was there. The technique was there. Like there was a play where it ended up being like a 2-yard gain, I believe, but they tried to bounce it outside, and he's got perfect position on the end, but he just couldn't finish because he just didn't have that grown man strength that you have after you've been in a Matt Bayless strength program for a year or two.
Right.
Not faulting him. I can't fault him for that. Right. But the thing is, he stayed on the guy until the very, very end of the play because the guy was outside and the play went outside, and eventually the only way you can hang on to the guy that way is
holding him.
If you hold him.
Yeah.
And they'll call holding on Notre Dame. They won't call holding on Notre Dame's opponents, but they'll call holding on Notre Dame, clearly. So
terrible.
I thought his compete level was good. His technique he's a really fundamentally sound kid.
I agree.
Which is kind of sad that their best technician is a true freshman.
Well, he lives with an NFL lineman. I mean,
it is, right?
But it's the way it goes.
He's going to be good. I thought he was going to be a good player. I gave him a 4.5-star upside grade. I just thought he was going to need like 2, maybe even 3 years.
And here's my thing: is he's playing well enough right now that I think you can have the discussion for next year to move Blake Fisher inside.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think that conversation can be had because of what Joe Alt is doing. And again, I realize Blake Fisher is going to be he could be a great tackle, but I think he could be
Quentin
generational.
Nelson been a really good tackle
right.
in college.
That's exactly what I'm saying. So like, if he's playing well enough to have that conversation, then that's all I can ask for right now, because I think he's going to continue to get better as well.
He was really good.
Yeah. Yep.
He was really sound. I wouldn't say he was really good.
He was sound.
He was really sound.
Right. And I'm not expecting miracles
right.
from him. I'm not.
Look, I don't expect a kid like him. And again, his circumstance is different. He's not 335.
Right.
He was a tight end in high school. And when we say tight end, he wasn't just a guy that stayed there and blind. He blocked a lot of tight end, but he caught passes too. I mean, he ran routes and caught passes. I don't expect a kid like that to come out and move people that have been in weight programs for 2 or 3 years as well.
Right.
But his when that comes, he's going to be really, really good. And that's the thing is he's doing in year 1 fundamentally and execution-wise what I didn't think he'd be ready to do until in year 2. Now you need to get to year 3, strength part of it. The future is very bright for him.
I
And
agree.
we'll have plenty of time this offseason to talk about what you're going to do with the offensive line. But
Absolutely.
I also thought live, like last night, I thought you were being a little hard on Cain Madden last night. I said, man, Vince has kind of got that little burr up, as you know what, about Cain Madden, right? And I was like, I think he was too hard on him. And then I watched the game again, and you were not wrong. His go-to, his try hard is there, but it's just,
and when all he
has to
do is down block on a run play, okay? If somebody is on his inside shoulder and all he has to do is down block and drive the guy off, that's his best play.
Right.
It's his best play, okay?
It's his only play right now.
Yes, that's correct. Because anytime they ask him to pass block, number one, he doesn't go and help. I honestly don't understand. Even if it's a 3-man front that he's going up against, he lets the other guys just do their thing on their own, and he just kind of stands there. Like, okay, there's nobody coming. Go help out. You know, give him a push, give him a shove, do something. But
he just doesn't move his feet. And that's the thing where you say you watch him play and you're saying this is what we talk about when you talk about not a well-coached offensive line. His technique has regressed so much since he was at Marshall. And part of it, I think, is the pressure of being at Notre Dame and all the expectations. But, I mean, things that we saw him do time and time again at Marshall. And, again, we weren't very high on him. We weren't buying into the All-American hype that people were making about him. But still, the one thing we said this summer was he's going to be physical and he's going to be fundamentally sound. He's the exact opposite of that. And there were times like I didn't see what you were talking about when you were talking about the pass blocking, and he would just kind of like he was looking outside and he was like watching the right tackle block a guy out wide. Now, at first, you look outside because if that guy does an immediate spin move inside, like the play against Virginia Tech, for example, the sack early in the game against Virginia Tech, Joe Alt gave up. In that instance, in this protection, if that would have happened to Josh Lugg, Cain Madden is right there to chip. But once that guy kind of gets to a certain point, you teach an offensive guard. Once he gets to a certain point, that spin ain't coming. You've got to look back inside. And he just stayed. I mean, I've never seen an offensive lineman. Well, yeah, I have. Was it the second game of the year with Zeke Correll? Second or third game of the year with Zeke Correll?
Yeah.
This is the second time this year that I've seen an offensive guard do something that I've never seen before, which is go a lot of the game and just not block anyone.
Yeah. He runs through and doesn't he'll run through everything and then come out the other side and then go help the running back up.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't do me any good.
He stops his feet. He's kind of a top-heavy kid, just his build.
Yeah,
and he'll stop his feet and just kind of, John Klimek had a comment on it. He said, I watched 62, that's Cain Madden, more than I normally do. He blocked no one at least 5 or 6 times.
That's an understatement.
And he falls down a lot.
Yes, he is on the ground more than any other offensive lineman I've ever seen. And not in
for
a
the
good
right
way.
reasons. Right.
Not because he's pancaking guys.
Right. He's not on the ground as much as like Quentin, for the reasons Quentin Nelson was on the ground a lot.
Right. Yes, completely agree.
And it's happening at the line of scrimmage, whereas when Quentin would do it, it would be like 3, 4, 5 yards downfield, and he was popping somebody.
Just don't.
So that was kind of that's to me. I feel
that's the last move for me. Is they need to find somebody else to play right guard. Because
they clearly can't fix it.
Right. They've had 7 games, and he has not gotten better. In fact, I would say at times he's gotten worse.
Much worse.
Whether it's Rocco, I don't care. Somebody else has to be better. Has to be better. That's my last look. They made the switches on the left side. I applaud them for that.
Did well.
But let's make a change on the right side. And maybe it's moving, Lug inside and giving Tosh a start. Okay. That would be great. Yay. Right. You've got to do something to take the next level for this offensive
is John
line.
Dirksen and Rocco Spindler really this bad?
That's exactly my point. No way.
And I'll say this. Okay, let me say this too. Let's say they are that. Let's say they're just as bad as Cain Madden. I'd still play them because there's at least a future for them where this experience could benefit them next season.
Exactly.
Cain's a 6-year senior. He's done after this year.
He's not coming back.
And right,
thankfully,
he can't come back. He can't. I mean, he's a 6th-year senior. There's no more years left.
Absolutely.
So that like to your point, that's the final move, and I don't really care what that move is, but that's the final move. They have to make a move there because
the move has to be 62 is on the bench. That's the only move that works for me.
And I don't say that kind of thing lightly, nor does Vince, but it's just I kept waiting on him to kind of at least get better, and he's progressively gotten worse as he's gone. He's just not being coached. It is what it is. What'd you think of the play of Andrew Kostovic?
You know what? He battled. He battled his butt off, I thought. And once he latches onto somebody, they don't get off.
Yeah. He did a really nice job of working his feet through the entire play all night long.
And his double teams, I thought, were good. I thought he got
Patterson especially are really good in working combo blocks.
They have good communication about who is going to go to the next level and who's going to stay on and all of that.
Right.
I thought that was really good for a guy basically making his first start. Mm-hmm. I was very impressed. You wouldn't have thought that he is just now getting his shot at left guard.
He had one big mistake. He had a play on a screen where if he blocks a guy, Kyron is gone. You know which play I'm talking about? They ran a screen to the left. It was the play where Jack Cohn, it was a great job by Cohn of getting that ball. I mean, the fact that he turns around and there's like a dude right there and he's like, just snaps it off. If Andrew gets that guy blocked, he is gone. But honestly, outside of that play, I thought he was really solid. He wasn't dominant, but he was really solid. Good first start for him.
Absolutely. A lot to build on them too.
From center to left tackle, that was the big thing for me, Vince, is the timing was really good when they were talking about working together. Even though they weren't, because Andrew's not a blow you off the ball guy. Jarrett Patterson's not a blow you off the ball guy. Joe Alt's not there at that point in time yet either. They're not, Blake Fisher, Quentin Nelson, Aaron Banks, Tommy Kramer, Alex Barr. They're not that. They're just do your job, play with good angles, play with good leverage, and stay engaged. And I thought the pass pro outside of one snap last night was really good. Part of it was USC was dropping 8 all night long.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes things easier, obviously, but they still got a sack with a 3-man front too.
Right.
Because it was 3 on 4.
And it was partly a coverage sack. I mean, because they dropped 8.
True.
It's not like Jack hit the top and got overwhelmed as much as he did earlier. I thought Jack did a good job of staying in the pocket. And then when he went to step into the pocket, there was that guy right there and there was nowhere to go. So it was part coverage sack for me. It wasn't just they got beat, but you shouldn't give up that kind of ground on a 3-man pressure. You shouldn't. But that was kind of my takeaway from the offensive line. And bring up a super chat from John A. along those lines. John Dirksen, Rocco Spindler, Quinn Carroll, we're all better in the spring game. And I saw the spring game. It says a lot. Yeah, because John's point being, the spring game was pretty awful.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, I mean, look, I don't get it. All those kids have played guard at some point in time this year. I don't know what it is. I don't know what they're waiting for. I don't know if they made a promise to sit. I don't know what it is.
Right.
I don't know if they feel bad. It could honestly be that. Like they feel bad. Like, hey, we've kind of screwed this kid up. Like let's give him a chance to redeem himself and get his NFL future back. But
he's gotten 7 games to do so. And even if they made a promise to him, look, you want to win ball games, and it's time to think about what's best for the team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and look, when you're recruiting this guy to come over as a grad transfer, even though you and I didn't necessarily agree with the fact that they should have brought him in, but the bottom line is they decided they wanted him. And as a second-team All-American, it's not really going out that far on a limb promising him that he's going to get playing time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of a promise that a lot of coaching staffs would have made. And I honestly don't have a whole lot of problem with it. The problem I have now is if you did make that promise, you're going to have to go back on that promise because it's no longer what's good for the football team.
They said
that
they
has
didn't.
To be your first thing.
That's the thing. They said they didn't, but
you and I both know things get said behind closed doors.
But even talking to people behind the scenes, they say they didn't promise them that. So I mean, I don't know. I really, yeah. I wasn't referring to what Brian Kelly said.
I got it. Okay.
I know my
got
stance on that.
Yes, I do.
But
yes, I do. We've got some questions in here about the tight end blocking. Since we're talking about the O-line,
it was better.
It was better.
I thought Michael Mayer blocked better. I thought George Takis was way too inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
There was a play. It was out of 13. I think it was the first time they got into 13 personnel. I think it was the first touchdown drive, the second down play. I thought this is one of the few times I thought Madden and Lugg had really good movement. Like if you actually watch the inside of the line, they got a really good push, and they didn't get a good push for much of the night. There was a few snaps here and there where they got real good movement. The 3rd and 5, for example, that was an example where they got a good push, got 5 yards, set up a 4th and 1 that they converted. And if you go back and watch that, Takis and then I think it was Avery Davis both got beat, and that's where the play was made. That's where it was from that backside. Right. His blocking to me was really up and down. I thought Michael Mayer had his best game of the season last night, blocking wise. So that was a good sign to see. He was given better effort competing. But overall, the tight end blocking wasn't as good as it was against Virginia Tech. But it was better than it had been in the 5 games before that. It's about with George. It's just about getting him to be more consistent.
Yeah.
And there was another comment later that said the holding call on him was fictitious. No, it wasn't.
It was a hold.
It was fictional. It was that.
Look.
So Chris, if you look at the original play, go ahead, Vince. No, explain it because
because you and I talked about this actually. Yeah. It was a good block. At first it was a really, really good block. The problem was he held on too late.
Right.
And because he held on too late, he lost his feet and he was still holding on. And that's where the hold came in, because if he lets him go, Diggs still gets the corner and it becomes a good block. Right. Once you lose leverage and he's getting outside, you've got to let go. Otherwise, they're going to call that every time.
If you're engaged with the guy right here, and even if you're holding him in a clean, and when I say holding in a clean manner, I mean holding him in a way where you're not going to get called for it.
Yeah.
But as soon as he kind of goes,
you're within the frame,
side, right, and you lose him, and he's in your once your body starts doing this, you got to let go, because once you start doing this, and you still got claws, then he's going to get turned, and that's where the holdings come. Now, that has happened to Notre Dame defensive linemen at least 25 times this year with no holding calls.
Right.
But every time Notre Dame's linemen do it, they seem to get called for it. And to me, that was a hold. That's where the hold came from, is when that guy tried to go outside and
and he didn't let go.
He didn't let go, and he yanked him back.
The ball being passed him means nothing. It doesn't matter. He fell down with him still holding on. They're going to call it.
That's
it is what it is.
But that even adds to the point, Chris. If the ball was past him, there's even less reason for him to hang on to him at that point.
Exactly.
So look, you don't want to. I always said this as a coach. Don't put officials in position where they can make a call against you, because they're going to mess it up. Right? Just do what you're taught to do.
Right.
And, it's kind of like there was some people thought that they should have called pass interference on Chris Steele on that first go route on the first drive. It was actually an RPO. Tried to throw that back shoulder to Kevin Stepherson, and Chris Steele was getting super handsy with Kevin Austin. But if I'm an official and if I'm a receivers coach, I'm going to say to Kevin Austin, I'm not throwing a flag on that effort. You got to play. You got to make a better play for the ball if you want me to throw a flag. If you turn around and you try to make that back shoulder throw catch, and that guy's yanking on your jersey, I'll throw the flag. But when you just give me this, stuff like that, and you don't even turn your hips to the ball, I'm not flagging that guy for that. He kicked your butt.
Right. I'm not bailing you out.
The same thing as the receivers coach.
Right.
You got to play better than that. People wanted a penalty on the interception. Kevin Austin's got to give better effort if he wants to be able to draw a flag in those situations. Now, the one time he did that, he beat Chris Steele up the field, had him smoked, and guy kind of tripped, kind of took him down. That was a better effort. You're going to get that call, but you've got to give better effort. You got to play better if you want to get those calls or avoid those calls. Receiver play, Vince, I felt like we talked a lot about last night. I don't have anything new about the receivers. Do you have anything new about the play of the receivers?
No, we talked a lot about 50-50 balls, and we talked about the effort, and we talked about their blocking as well. Avery Davis did not have a good day blocking, or at least in big moments, it felt like.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of Avery Davis's front, which was not good because that means he's looking back at the play after missing a block. And so that was bad. And I for him, I feel like that's an anomaly. I don't feel like that's a normal thing for him. So I'm willing to overlook this particular game. But he's if you sat him down and you asked him, that effort's not good enough. And so it is what it is there. But it's nothing that we didn't talk about yesterday. So no, I didn't see anything new.
Right. Quarterback play, didn't see anything new. I thought there was a couple times that I thought maybe Jack should have read the opposite side. There was a third down. There was a third down throw where he threw the ball, I think, to Takis, where I thought he should have. It was a stick slide combination. He went to the trip side. They were outnumbered, I think, like 5-3. I thought he should have gone to the other side. He actually did. He actually looked left. And if he would have stayed left, there was a mistake by USC. The flat defender and the corner both went out to the slide. And I think it was Kevin Austin came wide open on that. And he went away from it too quick, I thought. He didn't read the body language. Because if you read the body language of the flat defender, he's clearly buzzing. He's not. So what that means is essentially if I'm a flat defender, right, and I am kind of being taught, and he may not have been a flat defender. I have to go back and look at the play. But basically, you're taught to work through the inside receiver, right? And so your body language and all that's going to be in a way to where you can kind of play through the first inside defender to the flat, right? Because what you don't want to do is do what he did, which is kind of just take off right now for the flat, and then something comes open right behind you. Jack should have been able to read the body language of that guy and know that he's going. And he should have stuck it and then, bam, hit Kevin Austin. Because there was actually about 4 yards to each side of Kevin Austin where there was nobody.
Right.
He might have been able to catch that and quickly split and get 5, 6, 7 extra yards.
Or he'd been too wide open and dropped it. I mean, that's always possible too.
Hey, be nice.
I'm just
He
messing.
made a couple tough grabs.
No, that one of his that shoelace catch
nice
that
catch.
He made.
Yeah.
Granted, it was only for 4 or 5 yards,
Yeah.
but that was a really nice catch. That is not an easy catch to make.
I will say this about the receiver play, about Kevin Austin. He has to, if he's allowed to come back next year, he has to come back next year because he's still way too raw. And hopefully he gets coached better next year. Having said that, this game was a lot different than the last two where he struggled with press. The reason I say that is because he struggled with those 2 press plays, but it didn't get in his head. That's growth. Right now, as a receivers coach, I'm dinging him. His grade's going to be low.
Sure.
But I'm also going to pull him aside and say, hey, look, we got to get you better. But I'm proud of the fact that you didn't let those struggles impact the other parts of your game, which is exactly what he did in the last 2 times. He blocked his butt off in this game. Blocked his butt off in this game.
He did.
And he made some he had a big drop. He had the press, and he didn't go in a tank like he did against Cincinnati and like he did against Purdue.
Right. And that shows maturity.
Yeah, and he made a tough catch later in the game, that shoestring catch later in the game. So his problem is he's not coached real well right now, fundamentally and technically. And that goes back to the question that S said earlier. I thought the receivers played better because the game plan was built around the wide receivers. That's the difference. Getting Braden Lindsey the jet sweep, getting the ball out to Avery Davis, getting the ball out to Kevin Austin on RPOs. The receivers were much more of a focal point, so they made more plays. I don't think they necessarily played great because there were still way too many mistakes. Avery Davis in the run game, Kevin with drops, things like that. Now, I thought Braden Lindsey had a couple chances for big plays. There was one mistake that the Buckler made. It was on his seam throw. So I was asked about this on the message board. You remember, Vince? It was the seam throw he threw on his first series. Somebody said, "Do you think he made the right call, or the right decision?" And I said, "No, but I don't fault him for it because a veteran quarterback." So what it was is they had 3 receivers to the left, and they were playing kind of a cover 2 look. USC was. The field safety over top of Mayer or over top of the number 2 receiver should be working out so that to snap, the corner came right down and let Braden Lindsey run right past him. Well, the reason the corner did that is because he thought the safety was coming off the hash to get over top. Safety stayed right on the number. He stayed right on Avery Davis. A veteran quarterback sees that and throws a rope into that window. Braden Lindsey catches it and runs in for a touchdown.
Right.
Okay. But I don't know if I should ask Tyler Buckner to do that, because Tyler Buckner, as a freshman, sees cover two. Cover two is going to take away outside number one, most likely.
Right.
And so now I'm reading 2 to 3. And based on going, I think he allowed the pre-snap look to take him away from number one, and it took him to a secondary read. Based on that, he made a good read, great timing, got the ball out accurately. Michael Mayer made a great play. Right. So technically, I'm going to sit him down on film. I'm going to walk him through that, and I think that's what Brian Kelly was yelling at him for afterwards. But it's just kind of like, dude, really?
The kid just made a good play. Like, let's celebrate it. But yeah,
that's the thing.
It's not the time for that.
Yes, get him in the film room the next day.
Right.
Hey, you should have made this advanced read. You should have read it out, even though the pre-snap told you that. That's a veteran play. If Jack Cohn would have missed that play, I'd have been on him right now on the sideline.
Right.
Tyler Buckner makes that play. Hey, good job, buddy. Let's make sure you read that one out next time. Great job. And then you get him in the film room. But Brian Kelly just can't help himself. Like he's got to just get in your face and yell at you right now.
Because he wants everybody to have all the experience and to make all the experience throws. I mean, that's just who he is. So,
but I thought it was growth. I thought Tyler's timing on those his decision making in the read zone was better. And I'm gonna tell you something right now. If they're gonna go 13 personnel in the red zone, they better never ever have Jack Cohn at quarterback. Because the only way that's going to work is with Tyler Buckner quarterback. Now, I think they should go away from that. I don't think they should be running 13 personnel. You don't have enough healthy tight ends. Michael Carmody is not – they had him lined up as in a flex one time. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, come on. But I don't want to talk too much about that, because overall I was really, really happy with the offensive game plan. So I don't want
to – Me too. It's just when they went 13
with a couple nitpicks. But – 13 personnel is not work. It didn't work on the first touchdown drive. You went 13, miss. You went into 11 on third down, and it worked. Touchdown.
Right.
You get the ball at the 4-yard line, and you go 13, and then you go 11, but then you're in a bunch. And the way USC was played, USC had them. USC knew exactly what was coming. They were lined up outside the receivers, with the safeties and corners and the linebackers playing inside. Like they knew it was going to be that option slide, which Notre Dame runs a ton. They were prepared for it. You need to check out of it or, call a timeout or something. But those were some of my issues in the game. But overall, I thought the red zone offense was good. And I'm going to tell you something else. The third down offense last night, I knew it was good, but I didn't realize how good it was. Third down offense last night was phenomenal. It was really, really good, Vince, because they went 8 of 12,
right,
which ties the best mark they've had in the last 2 years. Now, the reason that matters is because last year they had the number 7 third down offense in the entire country, and they still tied the best mark from last night. 66.7% on third down is exceptionally good when you consider also that you had another third down that was just flat dropped on the first drive of the game.
That's true.
But I thought the third down – here's what I liked about the third down game plan. They did some of the stuff they normally do with the quick options, right? Early in the game, they were running those quick options, and it was really effective because Michael Mayer, we talked about last night, was doing a really good job. Cohn was getting the ball out. But he also mixed in some levels concepts, Vince, that I really liked. And he hit like the throw to Kevin Austin over the top. I thought – they converted a 3rd and 13. Like when I first said 8 of 12 in my head when I'm watching the game, I'm like, there weren't I couldn't remember any third longs. I couldn't really remember any other than the one pass to Kyron Williams that we talked about last night.
Yep.
But they converted a 3rd and 6 with a 10-yard gain. They converted a 3rd and 9 with a 16-yard gain where he hit Michael Mayer at the sticks. Mayer makes a move and converts it. They converted a 3rd and 8. They converted a 3rd and 13. And they converted another 3rd and 6 with a 15-yard gain. They actually converted a lot of 3rd and mediums to longs last night. More so than you'd think a team that went 8 and 12. You go 8 and 12, you're thinking and then one of the third down misses they had was a 3rd and 6 and 2 down territory where they ran the ball for 5 yards, got into a 4th and 1, and they converted the 4th one. Yeah. That was a successful third down play, even though it wasn't the ultimate success of picking up the first down.
Right.
You accomplished your goal of we're in 2 down territory. When you're in 2 down territory,
you're not trying to get it all. Yeah, exactly.
You'd like to,
sure,
but it's still a win if you get down. You need to get down to 2 or less.
Right.
Get me down to 2 or less, and that's a win for me.
Because they QB snuck it on 4th and 2 one
Right.
time. I mean, they have faith. They have faith
Right.
in Cone and his sneak ability.
And they needed it too the second time because they got no push on that 4th and 1.
No,
Cone
he literally ran into the
Yeah.
butt of Patterson and then had to kind of spin out of it.
There's nothing here.
Right.
Let me go do
Which,
something.
by the way, is an undervalued skill as a quarterback to be able to feel that and do what he did. Because he went to the right and then he kind of hopped forward to make sure he got those 2 yards. So, Tom Brady's like the best ever at that, but Jack Cohn did it really, really well.
Yeah. And I think part of what helped on the 3rd down, and we have a big super chat coming up, so I want to get to that in a second. But the other thing is, in the first half at least, I thought they did a really good job they were really good with the first down pass game. I think like in the first half, they were actually split 6 in the first and 6 in the second. The first half 3rd downs were 3rd and 6, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 3, and then a 3rd and 9. The second half 3rd downs were 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 13, 3rd and 6. They put themselves in too many unnecessary 3rd and medium to long situations because they went back to what they'd been in the past, which is running all the time.
Right.
Weren't running way too much on first set down, then getting themselves in 2nd and long situations that they then kind of have to to get out of. So I thought the first half, the efficiency in the pass game, because the 2 quarterbacks, Buckner and Cone, combined to go 22 of 30. That's 73.3%, I believe. That's a pretty good day's work. So I thought that helped with that helped them be a little bit more efficient on 1st and 2nd down. Now, the overall numbers weren't sexy. They were 7.1 per attempt and 9.7 per completion, which is not sexy, but it was a real efficient game for me. And that helped them on the first down. So we did get a super chat down here from Truman Dumel. Truman, we haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you back. He actually has a question, Vince. He left a super sticker, which we appreciate.
He announced his presence with authority.
Yes, he did. But Truman, thank you very, very much for that, Truman. But he also had a question down here. He said, how is Audric Estime looking on special teams? Audric actually also got in. Well, he also got in the goal line offense.
He had
and
a nice block.
Real nice block.
They had him lined up as like a wing almost, and had a nice block on the outside. So
he's been good on special teams. He's a physical blocker on kick return. And to me, Truman, I think the job he's done on kick return combined with what he did last night, honestly, instead of 13 personnel, Vince, at this point in time, you know what I would do? If you're dead set on having 2 tight ends in the field, I'd go 22 personnel, 2 backs, 2 tight ends.
Right.
Because what that does is with Audric is it gives you, number one, he's a physical kid. You can kick out with him, you can lead block with him. It gives you a little bit more in the tackle box,
right,
versatility in the run game, much like we saw from Tommy Tremble. There's no tight end on the roster that can do what Tommy Tremble can do.
No.
But maybe you have a running back who can do some of those things. Not to the level Tommy did, because he's a freshman.
Right.
But I would actually look at that and say, hey, you know what? If we want to go big personnel, instead of a 3rd tight end, instead of Michael Carmody, put Audric in the game.
Yeah.
And then move him around, because the other thing you can throw to him, because he's got decent hands. At least he did in high school. I haven't seen him catch Notre Dame, but he caught the ball well in high school. But I like that. You can throw to him. You can run it to him. Put him in motion and run a jet sweep. It just gives you so much more creativity. No, right. And then the other thing you can do is you can go 2 backs and you can motion Kyron out. Like, here's what I would do. If you could even go 23 personnel and do this, Vince. This would be real creative. So after the interception, you get down to the 4-yard line. I'm going 23 personnel, right? I'm going to put, which 23 is 2 running backs and 3 tight ends. Okay. I don't love it, but here's where I would like it. If we put 23 personnel in the game as an offense, that defense is going to see that, and they're going to put their big boys on the field. So then I'm lining up with my 2 backs from the shotgun, and then I'm motioning Kyron Williams outside. Hey, guess what Kyron Williams can do? Run every single route tree that you have, right? And so you could do some ISOs where if you want to have a safety out there, I'll take Kyron on a slant route in that situation. Right. But it also, here's the other thing. What might they do when they see my All-American running back who's good catching the football?
They're going to overplay it. They're going to overplay it.
And then I bring that 235-pound monster running right down your throat.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there's a lot of things. And they could also go 32 personnel out of that, Vince. Put 2 tight ends in the game, then give me Logan, Audric, and Kyron, and you got the same kind of things.
Right.
So that's the kind of creativity I'd like to see them do instead of kind of being the lazy, like, oh, let's go 13 personnel because that's what we did last year. You don't have Brock Wright. If you still had Brock Wright, go 13 personnel.
Right.
You still have Brock Wright and Tommy Tremble, go 13 in the red zone. All for it. Those guys are now getting paid to play football legally. So
that's all legal now, baby.
Right,
come on.
Right. So that's that. So yeah, I think I'm hoping that Saturday kind of opened their eyes up a little bit to like, you know what? Let's use this kid. Why not?
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you something right now. I'm gonna have an article about this, but the future to me for Notre Dame on offense, personnel wise, we'll see what they do schematically. I'm excited about the future of this offense. You've got Tyler Buckner. You've got Logan Diggs. You've got Audric Estime. Chris Tyree's like a veteran now as a sophomore, right? He's got multiple. He's got at least one more year left, possibly 2. Deion Colsey made a big play last night. Lorenzo Styles looked great.
Right.
It's amazing that these guys. It's kind of really cool how they figured it out as soon as Joe Wilkins got hurt. That the light went on for Logan Diggs, and as soon as Chris Tyree got hurt, like that moment, the moment he got hit with turf toe, Logan Diggs was like, "Oh, I know the offense now," right? And how that light went on for Lorenzo Styles, like the moment Joe Wilkins went down, like, "Oh, I know that play now." So it's really cool how that happened.
It's amazing.
And if you're not picking them up by sarcasm, I'm laying it on pretty thick. I think.
Yeah, you are.
But it's just amazing. Hey, give these kids a chance because they're talented players. Logan Diggs, Audric Estime, Lorenzo Styles, Deion Colsey, Chris Tyree. There's some really talented young players. Tyler Buckner. There's some Drew Pine. There's some really talented young players. Oh, and by the way, your left tackle's a true freshman.
And you have another left tackle-ish kind of guy who's a true freshman who's hurt. But still, the
future's looking really bright from a talent standpoint. And there was a couple other, bright future guys in the stands last night. One of them named Tobias Merriweather, who is having a great senior year. So yeah, it's that part. That's one of my takeaways. But also Truman, thank you again very much for that super chat.
Well, speaking of talent in the stands, we have a couple other super chats here. Corey D says, any news with the recruits who visited, or is it too soon? Do we improve our position with Nwankpa, Canoe, or Lucas?
So I have some updates on a couple of those guys. I'm going to put those on the message board tonight, Corey. So if you're a premium member, put that out. I have a couple more calls and the reason I'm not giving it just this second because I'm waiting to hear back from a couple people here real quick. But I do have some info that I've had a little bit that I've been able to get today. It's real initial. I will always advise, even though I think the info I got today is good and I'm going to put on the board, is I always advise people to not read too much into what a kid says the day after his visit's over or the last day of his visit, because usually there's a lot of emotion. They're loving it. It's more about, okay, let me see what he feels next Thursday when he's been to Ohio State or he's been to Oregon or wherever else these kids are going to go. But that definitely went well. Definitely have some good intel tonight. On the message board at Irish Breakdown. So if you aren't a member of that, sign up down there. But yeah, I'll have some stuff on there. But I think things went well. To that question, I think things went really well. I think Notre Dame made moves. Will it be enough to seal all these guys? We'll find out. And that's not a tease to go read the message board. I mean, generally we'll find out. I don't have that answer.
Right.
But things went really well this weekend. And there were so many Notre Dame players. Like, there's a picture of Tommy Rees hugging Tyler Eifert and Zach Martin before the game.
I love that picture, by the way. I saw that.
I mean, there were some dudes on campus last night. Like Anthony Lucas standing with Chase Claypool. I'm like, Chase looks bigger than Anthony Lucas. You know what I mean? Like, it was big time. It was big time.
Patrick Barnes has a super chat here as well. Thank you, Patrick. It says excited for Styles' future at wide receiver. Yeah, he flashed.
Did we answer Patrick's first? We did. We got to that. He talked about he had some questions about the offense, right? In his first super chat, Vince, do you remember?
Yeah, I think we pretty sure we did. Let's see, it's right here. He says rushing yards up, sack numbers down. How much was the change in scheme, and how much is the O-line play?
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought the O-line change in scheme. That was the one thing we did. There really wasn't a change of scheme last night. There was no, like, Notre Dame didn't do what USC did, which is add a bunch of new stuff. It was really a shift in emphasis. And that, to me, is the ultimate bye-week adjustment.
It's
what
emphasis,
I hate
yeah.
is when coaches put a bunch of new stuff in, like USC did, and guess what? Your players couldn't always execute it at a high level. Notre Dame didn't really put anything new in. They had a shift in emphasis. Tempo, which we've seen before. RPOs, which we've seen before. They did a lot of things differently last night that we hadn't seen before. And to me, that was the key. Shift in emphasis as opposed to adding a bunch of new stuff.
Emphasis and tempo.
Yep.
I mean, that's really what it was.
Yeah.
And it helped that. And we've been saying it for weeks, but that kind of thing can help your offensive line. And it did. And look, the offensive line played better. Don't get me wrong. They played better as a group. But those things combined is what helped. And it was great. It was great.
Yeah.
You get some visitors.
And again, I would encourage you all to go back and watch the first, especially the first, well, really the whole game. And watch how the RPOs influenced the run game. Watch how many times they were handing off to Kyron Williams and they were running an outside RPO, and the outside players for USC had to either freeze or work outside. And you're going to see how you talk about just the number of players in the box so many times last night when they weren't in 12 and 13 was it favored Notre Dame. And when you give Kyron Williams a favorable box, you have no chance as a defense.
Right.
None. And so we saw that last night. Sorry, Sadie is at my feet. Apparently, the door to the basement is open because now Rita and Sadie are both down here. Rita's sleeping and Sadie is wanting something. She's wanting something. So
she's the one.
My apologies.
That lots of attention, which I understand.
Yes. My apologies for that. But so that was the one thing, Patrick, that we didn't get to. It wasn't really, I didn't see anything necessarily new from Notre Dame last night, which I don't think they needed it. They always had it in their repertoire. They always had it in their tool bag.
Right.
They just didn't use it enough.
Exactly. Agreed.
Yeah. And we did have a comment down here. This was hilarious. Talvids, did you hear what Dante Williams said? I still don't feel like we lost that game. We ran out of time. Did he watch the 2019 game like in the locker room before the speech? Like, that was one of the weirdest comments that I saw last night. Was like,
he's trying to make his guys feel better. I get it, but
they're not stupid.
Exactly.
They're not stupid.
He's insulting their intelligence.
If Clay Helton would have said that in 2019, I'd have been like, yep, I get it.
Right.
Notre Dame was about, if there was 3 minutes left on the clock, Notre Dame would have punched it in and it had been 38-16. Like, what are we talking about here? So
Notre Dame ran out of time.
Right.
Notre Dame ran out of time to put you away.
Now, maybe he's talking about maybe we ran out of time in the second quarter, but hey, you had the time. You're the one that decided to do a run play with 20 seconds left and no timeouts, and then decided to do a spike play out of the shotgun.
Right.
Who does that?
Nobody.
Oh, USC.
Nobody does that. I watched it again today, and I texted you. I was like, I watched this 3 times because it just cracked me up.
It's funny.
It cracked me up.
It cracked me up because it was USC. If Notre Dame would have done that, I
would have lost my,
my television out of my window.
Yes, absolutely.
And I would have charged Brian Kelly and Tommy Reese for the replacement. It would have been so dumb.
You're right.
But yeah, I mean that's on you, buddy.
100%.
Right? I mean,
100%.
That's on you. He in that is where I will give him a little bit of a break, because that's where when you're an interim coach, you don't quite have the say so on things. He was hot after that.
He was.
You could tell he was pissed.
Yeah.
And it wasn't at the players, it was
at his staff.
Dude on the other side of that microphone.
No question.
He was hot about that.
And he should have been.
Yeah. Quick, Corey D. Kurt Hinish is done after this year, right? And yes, he is. So just so everyone's clear, Kurt played 4 full years at Notre Dame.
Right.
He got an extra year because of COVID. So there's no way, shape, form, or fashion that Kurt Hinish. The only way he could have come back next year, is if he got hurt in the first 4 games and had to take a medical redshirt. But
right. So he had 5. He's on his 5th year, not his 6th. but it
Right.
feels like 6 because
Right.
he's played all 5 years.
Yeah. And I don't know if we talked about this, but Colonel Klink's monocle, which I just anytime he or she asks a question, I feel like I want to get it up because I want to just say that. So it finally seemed to be a real game plan in the way they use Conan Buckner. We talked
Agreed.
about that last night for people who didn't watch the show last night, but I agree. Both quarterbacks knew exactly how the quarterback rotation was going to go last night. And that's the only way you can use 2 quarterbacks effectively.
We've been calling for that
last night
too.
is exact. Somebody said to me, somebody texted me like, did Brian Kelly and Tommy Reese listen to your show? And I was like, 1, no, but 2, I can understand why you would think that.
Yeah.
That was encouraging to see because they're not listening to us. They didn't do what they did last night because they listened to our show and were like, okay, let's just do what Driscoll says because I'm really getting sick of him bitching about this, right? That's not what happened last night.
It'd be funny.
I mean, I like to tell myself that, but that's not what happened last night. It was more about like they self-scouted. And
they did what they were supposed to do.
It's a lot easier to self-scout a team you follow than your own team because you're always getting ready for that next game.
Sure.
I'm somewhat sympathetic. It's not okay, but I'm somewhat sympathetic to it.
Right.
But I think that is the thing for me is to see that it's all the things we've been asking for since the summer, even the quarterback rotation. This is what we wanted from going back to May and June.
Yeah.
Use Tyler Buckner. He's too good
defined
not to
role.
play. Go watch that touchdown run. Tell me there's not a role for that kid on this football team.
Right.
But it has to be done the right way. And I thought last night, and the fact that they threw the first 2 times, though the first time it was actually an RPO, it was a pull off of a read. It wasn't a play action. That's something else too. I want to mention real quick. But the fact that they did that, his first 2 plays, I thought was brilliant. Because if he would have had another opportunity to play Vince, he would have been even more effective in the run game because they're like, we got to throw now. The other thing too that I didn't bring up earlier when we were talking about the RPOs, there was more versatility to the RPOs we talked about last night. But I think the other thing too, Vince, is I thought the RPO game made the play action game a lot better last night. Like they were hitting some play action plays before the run game really got going because it looks like the RPO stuff. And I think that's another thing that I felt made for an effective I mean, the first half, outside of Kevin Austin's drop, USC didn't stop Notre Dame in the first half. I mean, they really didn't. Notre Dame stopped themselves. Jack had that miss to Michael Mayer on the play. They settled for a field goal, and then Kevin Austin had a drop, which was followed by a missed field goal. I mean, but Notre Dame did what they wanted to do against USC in the first half. I mean, it was impressive.
Completely agree.
Yeah, it was impressive.
Completely agree.
Yep, it was impressive. So Vince.